Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about something every strong woman has experienced at least once in her life. Why do men come back after hurting you? It's confusing, it's frustrating, and sometimes, if we're honest, it's even tempting. But here's the truth. When you rise above the pain, when you own your worth, when you glow without seeking validation, that's when the same people who broke you suddenly remember your value. They return not because they've changed overnight, but because your strength, your light, your resilience, it pulls them back like a magnet. But here's the catch. You must decide if their return deserves a place in your life or if your chapter with them is already closed. So let's break down 10 truths about why they come back and why your power is in knowing what to do when they do. When someone leaves and later comes back, often it has very little to do with love and much more to do with comfort. You see, human beings are creatures of habit. We are drawn to the places, the people, the conversations that once felt like home. And even if that home was filled with cracks, pain, and broken memories, it's still a space they recognize. After hurting you, when the world outside doesn't feel as exciting or as welcoming as they imagined, they return to what feels safe. Not because they suddenly value you the way you always deserved, but because the comfort of your presence gives them a sense of security they can't find elsewhere. It's like revisiting an old song. No matter how many times they left it behind, the lyrics are still carved into their mind. And here's the thing. Familiarity is powerful. It doesn't ask them to start over. It doesn't challenge them to build from scratch. It gives them the illusion of belonging without the effort of creating something new. That's why they come back. Because with you, they didn't have to explain who they are. You already know their flaws, their weaknesses, their stories. With you, they don't have to pretend, and that sense of being known feels like safety. But let's pause here. Safety and love are not the same. Comfort and respect are not the same. Someone might return to you simply because your presence is easier than facing the emptiness of their own choices. And many times, the arms they run back to are the very arms they once pushed away. When people come back after hurting you, it's often not because they suddenly discovered a new depth of love. Many times, it's because they missed the energy you carried into their life. You see, energy is invisible but unforgettable. It's in the way you light up a room without even trying. It's in your laughter that breaks the heaviness of silence. It's in the calm you bring when the world feels chaotic. That energy isn't something they can buy, borrow, or replace. It's uniquely yours. When you were with them, they may not have appreciated it. They might have taken it for granted, mistaking your kindness for routine, your warmth for something ordinary. But once they step away, once they are surrounded by people who don't understand them, who don't nurture them, who don't ignite them, the contrast becomes clear. And suddenly the energy they once overlooked starts to feel like oxygen they can't live without. Think about it. You gave them laughter when life was heavy, support when they felt lost, hope when they doubted themselves. That energy is rare, and once it's gone, its absence is louder than its presence ever was. They don't just remember you, they remember how you made them feel alive, capable, seen. And so they return, chasing not you as a person, but the feeling you gave them. They miss the safe space you created, the encouragement you offered, the light you carried into their darkest hours. That's why they reach out again, why they knock on doors they once slammed shut. Because your energy isn't just memorable, it's irreplaceable. Sometimes when someone comes back after hurting you, it has nothing to do with love, care, or even regret. It has everything to do with their ego. The human ego is fragile. It craves validation. It needs reassurance. It wants to feel wanted even when it doesn't deserve to be. And when they realize you've pulled away, when they feel the silence of your absence, their ego begins to itch. Think about it. As long as you were giving, forgiving, and showing up for them, their ego was satisfied. They felt in control. They felt desired. They felt powerful. But the moment you stopped answering, the moment you stopped chasing, the moment you chose yourself, their ego started to panic. Because now the story has changed. They're no longer the center of your world. They're no longer the reason for your sleepless nights. And that for them feels like a loss of power. So they come back, not because they've had a change of heart, but because they need to heal that bruised ego. They want to test if you still care. They want to see if you'll still pick up the phone, still open the door, still let them in. To them, your response becomes proof of their worth. If you welcome them back, their ego feels healed. If you don't, it feels shattered. And this cycle is dangerous because it disguises itself as affection. They may say they miss you, they may act as if they've changed, but deep inside it's not about love, it's about validation. They don't want to be forgotten, they don't want to be replaced. They want the comfort of knowing that even after the hurt, you're still there. One of the most common reasons people come back after hurting you is simple. They didn't recognize your value when they had you. It's only when the silence sets in, when your presence is no longer guaranteed, that the weight of what they lost begins to hit them. At first, they might have thought you'd always be there. They assumed your love, your care, your effort would continue no matter how carelessly they treated you. They took your consistency as permanence. They thought walking away wouldn't really mean losing you. But when you stopped reaching out, when you stopped waiting, when you stopped explaining yourself, they felt the shift. And suddenly, the space you once filled in their life felt like a void. This realization doesn't come in a dramatic flash. It sneaks up on them in small moments. The missed messages, the celebrations they face alone, the days when they crave the comfort of your words but can't have them anymore. That's when it begins to dawn on them. They had something rare, something solid, something real, and they let it slip away. It's often too late when they see it. By the time they realize what your presence meant, you've already grown stronger in your absence. But the loss haunts them because nothing feels the same without you. The conversations don't flow as easily. The laughter doesn't feel as genuine. The support doesn't feel as deep. That's when regret begins to live rent-free in their heart. And regret has a way of dragging people back. Not always because they want to fix things, but because they want to escape the pain of knowing they ruined something irreplaceable. So they return, hoping to reclaim what they carelessly discarded, desperate to rewrite a chapter they ended too soon. Growth is powerful, growth is magnetic. And sometimes the very reason someone who once hurt you comes back is because they can't ignore the transformation. Hey, seeing you after the pain. When you finally choose yourself, when you stop begging for explanations, when you stop waiting for apologies, you start to rise. And that rise does not go unnoticed. They see you glowing differently. They notice the new confidence in your voice, the sparkle in your eyes that no longer carries the same weight of heartbreak. They notice you laughing again, but this time, not because of them, because of you. They see you stepping into rooms they never thought you'd enter, achieving milestones they never thought you'd reach, living a life they never imagined you could create without them. And here's the irony. Often, the pain they caused becomes the very fuel for your growth. They left you broken, but you rebuilt yourself piece by piece, stronger than before. They thought leaving you behind would diminish your light, but instead it became the reason you shine even brighter. Now from a distance, they can't help but notice. Maybe it's through social media, maybe it's through mutual friends, maybe it's in the way your silence speaks louder than your words ever did, but they see it, and it bothers them. Because growth is proof that you didn't just survive without them, you thrived. It stirs something inside them, a mix of regret and curiosity. They wonder, how did she do it? How did she move on so beautifully? How did she become stronger after I left her in pieces? That wonder pulls them back, not always with pure intentions, but with a desire to reconnect with the very energy that inspired your transformation. Sometimes it's not even about love, it's about the discomfort of watching you succeed in places where they expected you to fail. Your growth becomes a mirror that reflects their own stagnation, and that mirror is hard to look at. So instead of facing themselves, they come back to you, hoping to be part of the glow they never expected. To see without them. Regret is one of the heaviest emotions a person can carry, and often it becomes the very reason they return after causing you pain. At first, when they walked away or pushed you aside, they might have felt confident, even careless in their decision. They might have convinced themselves they were doing the right thing, or worse, that you would always be there when they changed their mind. But time has a way of revealing truths that ego tries to hide. Slowly, regret begins to creep in. It doesn't arrive all at once. It slips in quietly, showing up in little reminders. Maybe they see someone else treating you the way they should have. Maybe they realize no one listens to them the way you did. Maybe they scroll through old photos, old texts, old memories, and realize just how much of themselves they left behind when they let you go. And in those moments, the weight of their actions starts pressing down harder and harder. Regret is cruel because it brings clarity only when it's too late. It forces them to replay the moments they could have chosen differently, the times they should have appreciated you, the times they should have fought for you, the times they should have stayed instead of walking away. That replay becomes a loop in their mind, reminding them that they lost something they may never get back. And when regret grows unbearable, the natural instinct is to fix it, to seek redemption, to reach back into the past in hopes of rewriting the story. So they come back, not always because they're ready to love you better, but because the weight of regret is suffocating. They want relief from it. They want forgiveness, not necessarily to free you, but to free themselves. Sometimes regret pushes them to apologize. Other times it drives them to act as if nothing ever happened, hoping you'll slip back into the old rhythm. But the truth is, regret isn't about you. It's about them realizing what they lost and desperately trying to undo the damage they caused when they didn't value you in the first place. Not every return is about love. Sometimes it's about power. When someone hurts you and walks away, they often believe they still have control over your emotions. They assume that no matter how badly they treated you, they can come back whenever they choose and you'll still be there waiting. For them, it's not about connection. It's about reassurance of their influence over you. Control is intoxicating. It feeds the ego, it soothes insecurity, it makes them feel important. And when you finally step back, when you reclaim your voice, when you start saying no instead of bending to their patterns, something shifts. They feel that loss of control like a sharp sting. Suddenly, they are no longer the one dictating the rhythm of your life. You are, and that unsettles them. So what do? They try to come back. They test the waters to see if you'll still answer, still care, still give them the same access they once abused. For them, your response isn't just a conversation, it's a measurement of their power. If you open the door, it proves they still have a hold over you. If you don't, it threatens their sense of control. And this is why many of their returns feel inconsistent. One moment they'll act as though they miss you deeply, and the next they'll pull back again. Because their real motive isn't to build with you, it's to maintain authority over the story. They want to know that even after everything, they can still press a button in your heart and get a reaction. But power and love are not the same. One feeds insecurity, the other feeds connection. When someone comes back seeking control, it's rarely because they value who you are. It's because they fear losing the version of themselves they had when you were still under their influence. That fear drives them to re-enter your life, not as a partner, but as someone desperate to reclaim the dominance they lost when you chose yourself. Sometimes people don't come back because of love or even because of regret. They come back because of curiosity. Human nature is wired to wonder about the things we no longer have access to. The moment you stop giving them updates, the moment your life becomes a closed book to them, curiosity begins to stir. They start asking themselves silent questions. Has she moved on? Did she find someone better? Is she happier without me? These questions burn in their mind because once upon a time they had all the answers. They knew your routines, your moods, your secrets. But now, when you've pulled away, they're left in the dark. And the mystery of not knowing what's happening in your life is sometimes too much for them to bear. Curiosity is powerful because it thrives in silence. The less you reveal, the more they wonder. Every social media post becomes a puzzle. Every picture becomes a clue. Every moment of your absence becomes a question mark in their head. And when curiosity grows deep enough, it pushes them to reconnect. Not necessarily because they want to rebuild, but because they want to satisfy that inner itch of knowing. They might come back just to test the waters, to see if you'll reveal pieces of your new life. They might ask questions not because they truly care about the answers, but because they want to compare themselves to the new reality you've created without them. Sometimes curiosity isn't about love, it's about competition. They want to know if they've been replaced, if they've been forgotten, if someone else is now enjoying the version of you they once took for granted. And that curiosity doesn't fade easily because mystery is addictive. When they can't predict your next move, when they no longer have access to your world, their mind becomes restless. It's the same restlessness that pulls them back, again and again, searching for pieces of a story they no longer belong to. Loneliness has a way of making people look back at the very doors they once slammed shut. When the noise of distractions fades, when the temporary thrills lose their shine, when the crowd disappears and the room becomes quiet, that's when the weight of loneliness begins to sink in. And for many, that silence is unbearable. In those empty moments, they start to remember the times when they were never truly alone, because you were there. You were the one who listened to their endless stories, who comforted them on their bad days, who stood by them even when they didn't deserve it. You filled their life with presence, with warmth, with a sense of belonging. And now, without that presence, the loneliness grows louder. Loneliness can be deceptive, too. It makes people mistake need for love, emptiness for affection. They might not come back because they genuinely want to rebuild something meaningful. They might come back simply because the silence of their own choices has become too heavy to carry. They miss the convenience of having you by their side, the assurance of knowing someone cared, the security of not facing life's struggles alone. And so loneliness drives them back, not necessarily because they've changed, but because the void inside them seeks to be filled. They reach out, not out of strength, but out of weakness. They may say they miss you, but often what they truly miss is the way you shielded them from the ache of isolation. The truth is, people often run back to the ones they hurt when the nights get longer, when the days feel colder, when the world feels indifferent. And in that vulnerable state, they remember you, the one who never left them lonely until they chose to walk away. Ironically, the very strength you built from the pain they caused is often the reason they find themselves drawn back to you. When they left, maybe they thought you would crumble, maybe they assumed you would wait, stuck in the same place, broken and fragile. But instead you rose. You took the heartbreak, the betrayal, the disappointment, and you used it as fuel to transform yourself. And that transformation is impossible for them to ignore. Strength is magnetic. It's not just in the way you carry yourself now. It's in the way you no longer chase, no longer beg, no longer explain. It's in the way you've learned to smile without them, succeed without them, breathe without them. That independence, that resilience, that glow, it speaks louder than any words ever could. And for someone who once underestimated you, it's both shocking and irresistible. They see you standing taller, making choices for yourself, reclaiming your power. They see the confidence that comes from knowing your worth. They see a version of you they never thought existed, a version that doesn't need them, a version that thrives without their validation. And that vision unsettles them because strength reminds them of their own weakness. So they come back, not always because they've suddenly learned how to love better, but because they're captivated by the person you've become. They want to touch the light they once dimmed, to stand beside the power they once tried to break. Your growth, your healing, your courage, it becomes a force that pulls them back like gravity. And here lies the irony. The very pain they inflicted is the foundation of the strength that now attracts them. The version of you they couldn't appreciate then is the version they're desperate to reconnect with now. But this time, the power lies not in their return. It lies in your choice of whether their presence deserves a place in you, a new world. At the heart of it all, one of the deepest reasons they come back is because they realize there is no second version of you. They can meet new people, they can chase new faces, they can drown themselves in temporary distractions, but no one carries the exact essence you brought into their life. You are rare, and rarity has a way of haunting people when it's gone. Think about it. Your kindness, your patience, your fire, your loyalty. It's not something that can be duplicated. They might find someone who is attractive, someone who is exciting, someone who keeps them entertained for a while. But when the spark fades, they notice what's missing. They notice the depth they once had with you. They notice the bond they once dismissed. They notice the way you could see through their chaos, the way you understood the parts of them they didn't even understand themselves. That realization creeps in quietly. It shows up in conversations that don't feel the same, in laughter that doesn't echo as deeply, in comfort that never really settles. And slowly, it dawns on them. They're searching for pieces of you in everyone else, but those pieces can't be found because there is only one you. This truth unsettles them. It makes them restless. It makes them long for what they once held in their hands but couldn't protect. And in that longing, they return, not because the world has changed, but because they've finally accepted that no one else can replace the space you carved in their life. You are not interchangeable. You are not disposable. You are one of one. And that truth alone is enough to pull them back no matter how far they've gone. Another reason people come back after hurting you is because they feel the story between you is unfinished. Human beings hate loose ends. We like closure, we like final chapters. We like things tied up neatly. But when they walked away, they didn't close the book. They left pages unwritten, and that unsettles them. Every time they think of you, it feels like a sentence left hanging in the air, like a movie paused in the middle of a scene. The conversations that were never finished, the dreams that were half built, the promises left broken, they become echoes in their mind, and those echoes don't fade easily. So they return, not necessarily because they want to fix the past, but because they want to revisit the parts that feel incomplete. They want to see if you're still open to finishing the story they abandoned. They want to know if the door is still cracked open, if the chapter is still waiting for them to write their way back in. Sometimes this craving isn't about love. It's about the discomfort of knowing they walked away without real closure. They replay the last fight, the last words, the last goodbye, and realize it didn't feel final. It didn't feel like the end. And that feeling lingers like an itch they can't scratch. And here's the irony. They may not have cared enough to stay when they had you, but the moment they realize the story is carrying on without them, they panic. They want to insert themselves back into a narrative that no longer belongs to them, simply because the thought of being written out completely feels unbearable. One of the strongest pulls that brings people back after they've hurt you is the memory of how deeply you believed in them. You weren't just present in their life, you were a mirror that reflected the best version of who they could be. You saw their potential when they only saw flaws. You spoke life into their dreams when they upped themselves. You stood by them in moments they didn't even stand by themselves. And here's the truth. That kind of belief is rare. Not everyone gives it. Not everyone sustains it. Not everyone has the patience to nurture someone else's brokenness. But you did. You reminded them of their strength, their talent, their worth, even when they couldn't see it. And now, when they're away from you, they feel the absence of that support like a shadow following them everywhere they go. Because the world outside is different. Out there, people are quick to criticize, quick to judge, quick to dismiss. Out there, no one holds their hand through the storms. Out there, encouragement isn't given freely. So when they compare the emptiness of that reality to the faith you once poured into them, it creates a longing they can't ignore. They begin to miss the way you made them feel capable. They remember how your words fueled their courage, how your presence silenced their fears. And when they look around and realize no one else offers that same unwavering belief, they circle back, not always to love you the way you deserve, but to experience again the way you made them believe in themselves. That memory becomes a magnet. It whispers in their mind during moments of doubt, reminding them that with you, they felt stronger, braver, more alive. And sometimes that craving for belief, the kind only you gave, is enough to pull them back toward you. One of the hardest things for someone who once hurt you is seeing you live, love, and succeed without them. At first, they might have believed you'd stay stuck in the past, waiting for them, carrying the pain they caused like a weight on your shoulders. But when they look back and see you rising, smiling again, laughing again, building a life where their absence no longer defines you, it shakes them to the core. Because moving on is power. It's proof that their choices didn't destroy you. It's proof that the chapter they ended wasn't the end of your story. And nothing disturbs a person more than realizing the world didn't stop spinning when they left. They expected you to break, but instead, you bloomed. And that reality is harder for them to accept than the idea of losing you. They can't stand watching you shine in places they never supported you. They can't stand seeing someone else give you the care they refused to offer. They can't stand knowing that your happiness is no longer tied to their presence. It makes them restless because it forces them to face the truth. You were never dependent on them. The dependence was always the other way around. So they come back, not always out of love, but out of fear of being erased from your life completely. They don't want to be a forgotten chapter. They want to remain part of your story, even if they don't deserve a place in it. And sometimes their return is nothing more than an attempt to disrupt the peace you found without them, to test if they still matter in a world where you've proven you don't need them anymore. Another deep reason they return after hurting you is because they miss the kind of love you gave, the fearless, unconditional, all-in kind of love that not everyone is capable of giving. You didn't just care halfway, you poured yourself into them. You loved with a boldness that made them feel invincible, no matter what the world threw at them, they had someone in their corner who believed in them completely. Most people don't love like that. Most love with conditions, with limits, with walls. But you gave your heart openly, without hesitation. You celebrated their wins louder than they did. You held their hand through storms. You chose them even on days when they didn't feel worthy of being chosen. That kind of love is rare, and once it's gone, its absence echoes in ways they never imagined. When they go searching for it in others, they quickly realize not everyone is willing to give so selflessly. Not everyone invests with that much passion. Not everyone sacrifices with that much loyalty. Out there, love often comes with rules and restrictions, but with you, it was raw, genuine, alive. And now, when they look back, they feel the emptiness of what they lost, the fearless love that wrapped around them even when they pushed it away. They remember the late-night talks that made them feel seen, the way your touch carried comfort, the way your words could calm their storms. They remember how safe it felt to be loved so fiercely, so completely. And the more they try to replace it, the more they realize it can't be replicated. That realization gnaws at them because it forces them to face the truth. No one else will love them the way you did. So they come back, chasing that feeling, craving the intensity of a love that was never ordinary. They miss the way your love didn't ask them to be perfect, but pushed them to be better. They miss the way your love made them feel like they mattered in a world that often made them feel small.